Given how much drama and excitement and history occurs at the Olympics, it's no surprise that Hollywood has chosen it as the backdrop for a number of amazing movies over the years. So let's go ahead and count down 10 of the best Olympic movies of all time, all right? Let's go. Number 10, Cool Runnings. Let's start this off on the right foot with the classic film Cool Runnings. It famously tells the story of the first Jamaican bobsled team and its quest to compete at the 1988 Winter Olympics in Calgary. The film was released in 1993, and as it turns out, it was Hollywood legend John Candy's final film release during his lifetime. Curiously, the movie was originally intended to be a dramatic film, but clearly they went in a much different direction with this, and thank goodness for that, because this movie is way better as a comedy if you ask me. And for you music fans, you get a couple of nice tidbits from this film. Its theme, I Can See Clearly Now by Jimmy Cliff, reached number 18 on the Billboard Hot 100 upon release. And you know who composed the score for this film? The Hollywood animal himself, Hans Zimmer. Awesome. Number 9. Richard Jewell. Directed by Clint Eastwood and released in 2019, this film depicts the July 27th Centennial Olympic Park bombing and its aftermath. Security guard Richard Jewell finds a bomb during the 1996 Summer Olympics in Atlanta and alerts authorities to evacuate, only to later be wrongly accused of having placed the device himself. The movie features a loaded cast, with the title role played by Paul Walter Hauser, as well as supporting cast members Sam Rockwell, Kathy Bates, John Hamm, and Olivia Wilde. Interestingly, this film was a bit of a box office bomb upon its release, grossing just $43.7 million worldwide against a budget of $45 million, so it actually lost money. And while the movie really simplifies an incredibly complex and dramatic set of circumstances, it's still a gripping drama that is well worth a watch. Number 8, The Cutting Edge. Some call this one a cult classic, some call it a guilty pleasure, some think this is about as early 90s as it gets. I personally think it's all three, but regardless, this movie aligns sports and romantic comedy in a wonderful way. The movie stars Moira Kelly as a temperamental rich figure skater and D.B. Sweeney as a washed-up hockey player, both looking for a way to Olympic glory as figure skating partners. They are specifically aiming for gold at the 1992 Winter Olympics in Albertville, France, where they square off against a Soviet pair, which is kind of fun in hindsight because this was right at the tail end of the Soviet Union, so it's almost a fitting goodbye. This movie grossed about $25 million at the box office, which is honestly way more than I expected, and it generated a surprising number of sequels. So if you fancy yourself an ice skating version of The Taming of the Shrew, go check out this gem. Hey folks, just a quick pause here to ask if you do me the honor of subscribing to the channel. I am pumping out 3 videos a week right now, plus boatloads of shorts, so I'd love it if you joined for the ride. All right, back to Tinseltown we go. Number 7, Eddie the Eagle. This one flew a bit under the radar, and it's a crying shame that it did because it's an absolutely incredible story. It was released in 2016, and it tells the story of Michael Eddie Edwards. Just like the Jamaican bobsled team in Cool Runnings, he had a long shot goal of reaching the 1988 Olympics in Calgary as the first British ski jumper in more than 60 years. Taron Egerton stars in the lead role, and he's joined by a terrific cast, including Hugh Jackman, Christopher Walken, Irish Bourbon, and Jim Broadbent. It's a great movie because if there was ever an athlete who had to overcome huge obstacles, it's Eddie. Bullying, health issues, total lack of athletic ability, it's all there. I won't spoil it for you. Check out the movie when you get a chance. Number 6, Miracle. Released in 2004, this tells the infamous tale of the USA men's hockey team who beat the heavily favored Soviet Union at the 1980 Olympics. Now known as the Miracle on Ice, it's one of the most famous underdog stories from the history of the Olympics. I gotta hand it to Kurt Russell on this one. He was fantastic in the role of Herb Brooks, the head coach of the US team. He absolutely nailed it in this film. One of my favorite parts of this movie is that they use the actual play-by-play audio in the Olympic Games scenes, which gives the movie this feeling of authenticity and realism that can often be lacking from dramatized sports films. And though we are now more than 40 years removed from the event itself, Miracle as a movie will no doubt endure as one of the classic Olympic sports films. Number 5, Blades of Glory. I absolutely had to include this movie on the list today. I just had to. It's comedy gold, and it's loaded with some of the leading comedians of its time, as well as some of the leading Olympians of its time. Starring Will Ferrell and Jon Heder as paired male figure skaters, the cast is rounded out by Amy Poehler, Will Arnett, Jenna Fischer, and Craig T. Nelson, among many others. It also features many of the most famous real figure skaters of all time, including Nancy Kerrigan, Scott Hamilton, Brian Boitano, Dorothy Hamill, and Peggy Fleming. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say this is an Oscar-worthy film, all right? But if you're looking to shut your brain down for 90 minutes and you're open to a parody of the Olympic Games, then this is your film. A behind-the-scenes fun fact I learned about this movie in researching for this video: Seth Rogen has said that he and his writing partner, Evan Goldberg, wrote a draft of the screenplay that included some of the biggest jokes featured in the final movie, but they were ultimately fired and did not receive any credit. How scandalous! Number 4, Foxcatcher. This film and the true story that it's based on is exceedingly dark and disturbing, so consider yourself warned if you haven't seen it yet. It follows wealthy philanthropist John DuPont, heir to the DuPont family fortune, at his Foxcatcher wrestling training facility, where he recruits Olympic champions Dave and Mark Schultz to train future wrestlers. As the men become more and more entwined, DuPont's erratic behavior and paranoid mindset, which was previously hidden by his wealth and fame, begins to bubble to the surface. I'm not going to spoil the ending for you if you haven't seen it, but it takes an extremely dramatic turn for all involved. Steve Carell is best known for his comedic performances, but he is incredible and captivating as DuPont, and he's joined by Channing Tatum and Mark Ruffalo as the Schultz brothers. Carell and Ruffalo ended up with Oscar nominations for their roles, which they highly deserved, and those were just 2 of the 5 Oscar nominations this movie received at the 2015 Academy Awards. Number 3, I, Tonya. The coordinated attack on Nancy Kerrigan by her US skating rival, Tonya Harding, is literally one of the most insane Olympic stories of all time. Like, it's almost too unbelievable to be true, but it absolutely is. So inevitably, Hollywood would get their hands on it, and in 2017, we got the black comedy I, Tonya. It's not a straight biopic, and it's also only very loosely based around the actual facts, but it's nonetheless an incredible film. Margot Robbie stars as Tonya Harding in an Oscar-nominated performance, and Allison Janney, who stars as her mother, won an Oscar for her portrayal, and yeah, she totally deserved it. I have to admit, upon its release, I originally thought this was just a simple dramatization of the story, but when I finally saw the movie, I realized it was a lot more than that. It's got this almost mockumentary style to it that I was not expecting, but it's awesome for sure. Well done, movie people. Number 2, Munich. Remember when I said the whole Tonya Harding-Nancy Kerrigan thing was one of the most insane Olympic stories? Well, the 1972 Olympics in Munich has that comfortably beat, featuring one of the most famous terrorist attacks of all time. And once you put a story like that in the hands of Steven Spielberg, you are gonna get brilliance. And that's exactly what we got with the 2005 epic drama Munich. While it doesn't dive much into the actual Olympic Games themselves as a sporting event, it more than makes up for it by using the 1972 massacre as the launching point into the larger and much darker aftermath of the attacks. Using the games as a base and revisiting the tragic events throughout the film, it clearly demonstrates how the Olympics can be so much more than just a mere sporting event. The cast is brilliant, the storytelling is incredible, and the visuals, they will be etched in your memory forever. What a movie. Number 1, Chariots of Fire. Featuring one of the most famous movie scores of all time, Chariots of Fire follows the true story of 2 British athletes at the 1924 Olympics, who competed for different but equally important reasons. It's a movie about achieving your goals through self-sacrifice and moral courage, and it's not simply a great Olympics movie, it's a great movie, period. Released in 1981, it became an instant classic and was nominated for 7 Academy Awards, eventually winning 4, including Best Picture. One thing to bear in mind is that the movie was never intended to be historically accurate, but rather historically authentic, as in they wanted to capture the essence of the true events while still taking some creative liberties. So if you go watch it, bear that in mind. While the filmmakers play around a bit with the names of the athletes, the timeline of events, and they even create some fictional bits to suit the movie, it's nonetheless an incredible film and very deserving of the top spot on today's Olympic list. Well, there you have it, folks. So what do you think? Which of these Olympic movies are your favorite? Are there any that I missed that you think deserve a spot? Let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, I will see you next time, friends.